Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This month is May, and in the States, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. The theme this month is remembering our names. Names hold a lot of value, personalized as an individual. But a lot of times when it comes to names, they can either conjure up, fond memories, unpleasant memories. This month we're paying tribute to mental health, which can be messy. It can be hard for families to navigate, it can be hard for the individual to see past what they're going through and remember that they're still who they are. I find that names a lot of times is one of the first things that we do, or people do when someone is born in this world, is that you name them. It individualizes that individual. I just want to say that we're reminded of this month because of all those who are suffering. But at the same time, I'm so pleased to have a returning guest, I would like to say. Frida, thank you for coming on and sharing your insight with us and just sharing your knowledge and everything else. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me again, Robert. It's a pleasure.
No problem. And I just want to share a disclaimer. If you are in the United States, and 988 is a suicide crisis lifeline, I do encourage you to find what resources work for you. I don't like reinventing the wheel. So whatever works for you, I tell you to find it. Whatever community, wherever you feel comfortable. Just the biggest thing is to ask that 3-word question. Oh, well, I need help, not question. I need help. That's the hardest things for us to say is I need help. So one thing when I think about this month is some of the celebrities that were no longer here. And one of them notable is Robin Williams. I think about his quote, and it's kind of eerie hearing this quote, reading this quote, thinking about this month and this quote. The quote reads, I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel alone. What comes to mind when you hear this quote, Frida?
I'm a very, very feeling person. So what I felt listening to that quote was deep sadness, really. Because so many people out there are feeling isolated and alone and feeling like they don't that nobody would be able to accept and understand them. And it's sad that even in our world today, with so much research, extensive research around mental illnesses and mental health, that so many people are still feeling isolated and stigmatized and struggling.
And I feel like also, Robin Williams also, this quote brings up a more, I guess, intangible view of how we see ourselves. I could be around people who are trying to support me, but I feel the same thing. I feel alone. So, and I feel that's an interesting concept. So it's not always the case that there's not support there. Sometimes it's just the person or the individual who's struggling, refusing to take that support. So it's an interesting idea, because proximity doesn't mean I could be around a lot of friends, a lot of people, but if I'm miserable, if I don't like who I am, if I don't like what's going on, it's gonna be very difficult to feel like I connect. And I feel I could be doing things alone, tinkering, do my hobbies or whatever, and I don't feel alone at all. I feel fine, but it's a verbiage. So piggybacking on that, what has your experience been? I know right now we're getting out of COVID, but I still feel it's still kind of different. I knew before, with all these social media platforms, all these ways we can connect, we still don't connect well. We have so many ways, but we don't really do it effectively. What are your thoughts when you think about that connecting and actually this quote?
Yeah, I want to speak to a few things that you mentioned there. Definitely, it doesn't help when we are so mired in in negative emotions about ourselves. Maybe people are stuck in depression or have such critical views of themselves that they don't feel they deserve to even get the help, or they don't even know how to reach out help, even though there are people who are, maybe ready to help them or ready to set them up, take them to a psychologist or take them to get some help. And it's definitely interesting that with so much technology at our fingertips and so many Facebook support groups out there, and a lot of self-help material available, there is still this disconnect from other people.
And and then on top of that, I just feel that sometimes we have this generalization of what we're going through. Like if I'm going through like something that's hard, if I lost someone, let's just talk about grief for a second, because a lot of people have lost someone during the COVID-19. It will not look the same as anyone else. You can't take someone else's context, and I feel sometimes it may feel a little bit better, at least if you're knowing maybe what diagnosis you have, but your depression or whatever you're going through is not going to be the same as your neighbors at all. A lot of times there's a sense of urgency, this sense of need and wants that we don't take a lot of time to kind of think what we want. You talk about I find it funny when you just hobbies. I ask my clients, what hobbies do you like? And like, I don't have time for hobbies. I don't deserve hobbies. I need to do things yesterday. I need to be better yesterday. And I feel for me that urgency is concerning. That disconnect is concerning, because there are ways to connect, but apparently we're not doing it well in some ways. So what are your thoughts when you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, what it makes me think about when you're talking about hobbies and people not even knowing, if you ask a person, what do you like to do? What relaxes you? What makes you happy? If you just got a 24 hours Ferris Bueller's day out, what would you do?
Yeah.
People don't even know how to answer that question. So if we don't even know how to connect to ourselves, or we don't have this idea of who this person is inside, then the question is, how well do we actually connect with other people? Maybe, especially when we're on social media, maybe it just stays at this surface level that we're just liking and sending a few emojis and things like that. But are we really connecting with each other?
Yeah.
On a deeper level, I'm interested in knowing who you are. What are your dreams? What are your struggles? But we need to first ask ourselves that.
Yeah, exactly. I feel, we outsource. We live in a world where everything's convenience based. We want things to be easier, but we take very little time of knowing why we even do what we do. And it's part of the reason why I used to like. We're dependent on GPS, even though we go to the same place every single time. We put it in there. It's almost
That's
like
me.
that's and obviously we make excuses like, I want to know the traffic. But honestly, it's not bad to have structure at times. It's not bad this technology is not inherently bad, is what I'm saying. But when we don't take the time to even know what we want, when everything we want or need is something that we sound like commercials. That we're just commercials ourselves, saying what we think other people would need, defining words, defining what is important to us, individualizing it, just like if someone had a medical disease, or let's say someone had cancer. You're gonna get a second opinion. You're gonna say, I don't know, this is not working for me. But the saddest point is when it's intangible, when it's mental health. Everyone, no one can really see it sometimes. Like, the medicine's kind of working. I'm not going to bother my mental health provider. I'm like, who are you doing this for? Why aren't you sharing that maybe this medication is not helpful? And it's not, for me, I think it starts from the individual. From my experience, however you maintain sustained change in someone's life that's positive, it starts from the individual. It doesn't start from, Oscar Wilde says it this way. I saw this quote. It says, "Be yourself. Everyone else is already taken." Everyone else is already taken. A lot of times, only if I could do this. Only, we start being jealous or kind of envious of people's situation, but you don't know what they've gone through. You don't know what brought them, what title, really, what makes you happy, Susan? What makes you happy, David? Whoever you are, find out who you are. And that I feel that for me, I think that helps at least the start of the journey. It's not everything, obviously, but it's definitely a good starting point to at least know what you want. I want to ask you, Frida, switching gears, from your experience, what have you seen to be helpful in working with or through difficult moments in your life? What did not help you as much? Which take time to kind of unpack this.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see what to start with. Well, I would love to definitely share what has worked for me over the years. I have worked in the social work industry for many years in Australia, and people that know me, they know this about me, but I did experience a lot of stress in relation to my career. I dealt with anxiety for most of my life as well, and you know what? That really pushed me to do what we talked about. It's to kind of go on a journey to build inner resilience, to figure out what worked for me. I mean, I tried. I've done counseling, I've done therapy, I did supervision. I paid for external supervision when I was a social worker. My employer didn't pay for it. I paid for it myself. Then I found practices like yoga, mindfulness, meditation, and it sent me on a journey to not only go inwards and develop these skills in me. And I'm in no way there. I am still an incredibly big work in progress, but these are things I found work. And I recently started coaching for people to develop something called mental fitness. And mental fitness is a term that is coined by author of Positive Intelligence, and he's a Stanford lecturer as well. His name is Shirzad Shamim. And mental fitness is our capacity to deal with life's challenges with a positive instead of a negative mindset. So mental fitness is our capacity to deal with life's challenges and opportunities as well, because opportunities can also be challenging, right? And pushing us, maybe in ways that we feel totally uncomfortable and out of our comfort zone. So building mental fitness allows us to take on opportunities with focus, with calm, with a positive mindset instead of a negative one. And to illustrate this, I wanted to tell a little analogy. So this is so comparing it to physical fitness, right? What does it have to do with fitness? So if you're an average you're an average person with an average physical fitness, for example, and you're riding a bike and you're going along a very smooth, level, even path, and you're just going at a very easy pace, you'd probably be able to go along without getting too tired or too puffed or not falling over and things like that. But if suddenly you put a mountain in front of that person with an average physical health, right? And suddenly you have to go up these uneven rocky roads and there's sharp turns. You're probably going to fall off the bike. You're going to get tired, injured. You might give up halfway there. So comparing that to mental fitness, building mental fitness means that we build this capacity to actually deal with challenging times when they arise. it's not just people who are diagnosed with a mental illness that need this,
Mm-hmm.
because anything can happen in life. A pandemic happened, and none of us were prepared for what challenges were there, right? It was a mountain that had no roadmap or nothing, that we all kind of had to deal with. And you don't learn it by reading a book on, you don't learn to do mountain biking by reading it from a book or from a website, right? We have to build this muscle. So those are the things that have really worked for me, and it really goes in line with what we talked about. Let me talk about what hasn't worked.
Okay. Yeah.
And this is definitely not asking for help, right? So we're both in the caring industry. I've been in social work. I know that you work in mental health. A lot of people in this industry not great with asking for help, because we're the people that people go to for help, right? For a lot of people, they feel like, well, I can't look like I'm weak, or I don't know what I'm doing, but it's really about deep empathy and deep respect for ourselves, that we ask for help because we have respect for ourselves and we have empathy, and without asking for help, we burn out. And then the world misses out on what we have to give.
And I know I wanted to just say, with the whole mental fitness, I think I like that you brought up it's not just for people with mental illness. I think if we're really being honest, all of us can really benefit from being a little bit more intentional. With our communication with our families, how we process that. Mentioned before about, it seems simple enough, but the reframing and kind of looking back and looking yourself in like more of a mindfulness kind of way, you kind of see maybe a little bit close to the elephant. I remember there's one author, there's some blind, they had a blind people look at an elephant for the first time. One's touching the trunk, one's touching and they have different aspects. It's still true, but it's not the entirety. So I feel a lot of times we have blind spots. I would say I am more amazed when people communicate effectively than if they do, than that they don't. I'm most times a lot of our conversations are very superficial. I remember you mentioned the pandemic. One thing I missed was just going to the store and not feeling I had to rush out with a mask. I'm like, how important was this thing I'm about to buy? The line's long. There's no interaction. It's just like, everyone was just kind of, and I think at least for me, I felt there was a loss. There was a loss of that kind of, even that superficial conversation that we used to have. And building on that, I think, you mentioned the empathy when it comes to working in the mental health field. I think it's important to you say respect. It is respecting yourself and knowing that you're only as good as is it more important that you look okay, that you look like you're healthy, or that you actually are? It's a struggle because there's a lot of heavy cases, and I know you know this, Frida. You deal with people who you just don't even know how they're even still here talking to you. You're like, I don't even know how. But at the same time, I just find slowing things down, knowing what you can actually control. I got this from Viktor Frankl. Is like the whole idea of, it's not about, consuming yourself. I'm paraphrasing, of all the things you can't do or all the things that are out of your control, but what can you control today? Maybe it's just those who know this mental health. So a lot of times With depression, you don't even want to get out of the bed. Well, maybe the only thing you do is get out of the bed, or maybe the only thing you do is go out for a walk. One thing I notice also, people who are pet lovers, people who love dogs, um, it's hard for them not to have a dog because the dog kind of allows them a purpose to go walk them. You know, like if they didn't have the dog, they wouldn't go out to walk. And I just want to share this
Yeah.
one
And
quote.
that's
Yeah,
what finding what works for you, right? If you need
yeah,
to have a dog in order to get that walk
yeah,
in,
yeah,
get a dog. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I
No,
interrupted
no,
you
it's
there.
fine. I see a lot, especially in because I'm in Florida, so there's a lot of older, older elderly individuals, and a spouse dies. One of the things that I've noticed is the hardest thing when the spouse dies at that late age is, funny enough, how do you cook for one person? It's weird. It's sad, So like, even the dog being there, it's like, okay, I have to take him out. I have to take her out. So it's one of those things. I just want to share this quote. This doesn't really fall in line, but I think it's interesting to piggyback what Robin Williams says, and just kind of shed light. It's from, I'll give you the name. He says, "What should young people do with their lives today? Many things, obviously, but the most daring thing is to create stable communities in which this terrible disease of loneliness can be cured. I do not minimize loneliness after working in the mental health field, experiencing it for myself. Loneliness can make us do some of them, could get us in trouble, could get us in a lot of struggling moments. And sometimes, like Robin Williams shared in the beginning in the quote, um, when you feel this way, it doesn't matter if the people are around you. It doesn't matter if they want to help you. It's how you see the world that is around you, and that is, I think, a cautionary tale, and it kind of makes why this month of recognizing the individual is so important, because
Mm.
we are the individual. Like, whether I have depression, schizoaffective, schizophrenia, bipolar, I'm still Robert. Whoever that is, whoever that individual is, it's not I am bipolar one or whatever the DSMV number acronym. No, I am still that person. So I feel sometimes when we individualize, like, we take ownership of what we're doing. What is our health? Our health is not to so generalize. And yeah, it's because I want to be better. Why do you want to be better? Because I want to, you know, be have a better relationship with my family. Be able to build what I think I've lost or whatever it may be. I think that's what helps a lot. What are your thoughts? I'm sorry to kind of go on a.
Yeah. Yeah, no worries. You've said so many interesting things there, about, the individual, and it really brings it back to this idea of building the inner resilience, because how do you even start to build a community when you don't know what kind of people you want to connect to, or
Mm-hmm,
how do you feel listened to as a person, or what are things that you're interested in.
mm-hmm,
But I think it also again builds on this idea that we are individuals.
mm-hmm,
And I really want to stress, I think if there's one thing in terms of honoring this day and building mental health awareness, it is to really stress that any part of you, so in any part of who you are, whether it's your challenges, whether it's your mental health uh, disorder diagnosis, whether it's the trauma you've experienced, whether it's your childhood or your thought patterns or your dreams and your skills,
mm-hmm,
these are all part of who you are uniquely. They're all there to enrich in the person you are. None of it is wrong. None of it is a mistake.
mm-hmm,
It's happened this way. When we build mental fitness, it's actually a process of integrating all these part of ourselves, and it comes from building deep empathy for who we are.
mm-hmm,
It comes from building curiosity, about
mm-hmm,
why, asking ourselves, why did this coming from a place of curiosity, going, why did this challenge happen to me?
Mm-hmm.
Why did it pan out this way? Why do I have these thought patterns or these behaviors where I don't ask for help? Be curious about it, as opposed to coming from a place of we have these things called saboteurs in our heads, and they're the critical harsh voices in our head that say, oh, you're not worthy, you're gonna fail, nobody likes you, if you ask for help people will think you're weak. These are the critical voices that then prevent us from actually being curious and going, hey, what support do I need? It seems like I can only handle this much, and I'm lacking some resources, I'm lacking some skills, I'm lacking support network. What can I do to get these things, right? The difference in those two energies is vast, right? One energy pulls you down and isolates you, makes you feel unworthy of happiness or support, and one opens you up to possibilities. Yeah. And the other thing is also being able to then look at how could my experiences be a gift? If I see my experience of anxiety, for example, as an experience that trained me to be highly sensitive to the emotions of other people. This makes me a really effective coach and social worker and meditation teacher. I have deep empathy, for both myself and other people. And I wouldn't have developed that skill if I hadn't had my own experience of anxiety, right? So we can also ask ourselves, how can our experiences, even mental illness or trauma, how could it be a gift? Like, what can it teach us?
Yeah. I think a lot of times we just need to give ourselves a little bit of time and grace. Like a lot of this, I just remember just, especially when I was going through a lot of stuff, I remember looking back and looking right now, looking forward, and I say, a lot of our lives right now, is unfinished. Let's be honest. Like if we're completionists, like those people who are, I don't know, I'm a gamer, so people who play games, they want to get 100% accomplishments. Probably not going to happen all the time. A lot of times in life, and if you give yourself a little bit of grace, you understand that, hey, I am human. One thing I love is comedy. Why? Because it kind of toes that line of celebrating our humanity, our shortcomings, our accomplishments too, but also that we ourselves are human. And I feel when we kind of look at ourselves and understand that, hey, I'm not finished, but nor will I be. The unfinishedness is kind of what I've kind of grasped on, and also it helped me quickly, especially when I'm going through a hard situation, to reframe it. Understand that, just like you're saying, sometimes hindsight is 20/20. Honestly, I if you go through enough hard times, you kind of remember the feeling, at least for me, and I'm like, okay, this will pass soon, and then I'll reassess what actually happened. Why did this happen in this way? But the danger is when we don't address it, when we outsource our needs and wants to a general sense, when we think about our mental health as a general sense, that's just a phase, that's something that and you don't individualize it, you put it aside thinking, I don't want to deal with this. Well, the thing is, because I have so much other things, well, I would encourage you to take the time on you, and that is easy for me to say. Time management is a very tricky thing. I feel it's very individualized. It goes by priorities and what is important to you. I think Albert Einstein, just touching on mental health and why we even have this month, but Albert Einstein says that the world is a dangerous place, not because of those who are evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing. And I'm saying this not to kind of be strong and kind of blunt on this, and this goes with your own life. This goes with you yourself. If you don't like something, if you don't like how you're feeling, It's easy for me to say, but it's life doesn't happen in the vacuum. So you got to kind of look back at what little steps you can take that may be helpful. But I would like to say, it would be nice when we don't have to be reminded about these months. We're just reminded that, people with mental health, they need support. It's difficult, it's messy. We should be a community um, that that encourages, how do you say, um, accountability. And when I say that, it encourages accountability that it's a safe place. If I didn't go to the gym today because I just lazied out, it shouldn't be a big, long, arbitrary reason why I didn't go to the gym. It was because I just lazied out. It was not because, well, that person did that and I was stressed. No, accountability is not a bad word. I know I'm not going to be anywhere if it's everyone else's fault. But at the same time, it's nice to have a community where it doesn't matter if it is your fault. You begin to learn from those experiences and move forward. What are your thoughts on some of the things that we've been talking about?
Yeah, self-responsibility. It's so scary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because suddenly it doesn't become, of course, we can't look past the people who have experienced, when we talk about this mountain, right? A lot of people with mental illness have had difficult childhoods or traumatic events or inherited mental illnesses, even difficult relationships to parents. But it is still, it's still a responsibility to get the help. And I know that it's very difficult to be in for people that, are in the depths of depression, for example. I wanted to share just a very quick, I wouldn't say it's easy because you have to be present in the moment, but a very quick way to actually be in ourselves, even if it's just for 30 seconds. And it's called the PQ rep. And this is a little exercise that you can do, if you are blaming yourself because you didn't go to the gym, or if things are just so hard that you can't handle it, coming back into your body is always better than staying in the mind that is going, oh my God, the situation is so bad, I'm so depressed, I'm so anxious, I'm so right. So we have to create a way where we intercept those negative thoughts in our mind that keep us stuck in the depression, in the anxiety. So next time you feel any kind of negative emotion, anyone who's listening out there, I'd like for you to try that, or invite you to try this out. And it's literally just to stop whatever you're doing and to pick one of your senses. So a very effective one is actually to bring your fingertips together and maybe closing your eyes, and you are just like sliding your fingertips up and down and just see if you can feel the sensations in your fingertips for 30 seconds. That's a way for you to actually come back to your body and feel yourself a little bit without it being too dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Because it can be very difficult when you are in the midst of some difficult mental illness or mental issue. Another great one is sound, because there's always sound around us. So take 30 seconds to just pick out 3 sounds that you hear in your environment. That's just another way for you to intercept the negativity that's going on in the mind and come back to the moment. I guarantee you it helps, even if it's just not turning it down a notch, 2%, 5%, anything is welcome. So little tip for you there.
Yeah.
And I forgot what teaching all that.
No, it's totally fine. I just want to say what also has helped me is just, I mentioned the whole gym thing, but not during the actual, when you're in, you're having these negative recurring thoughts, but when you remember. That's a good thing about remembering things. When you remember, you're having, I was really upset with because why am I doing this gym in the first place? Why am I even going to the gym? Ask it. I go through the why questions all the way down. I want to be around, let's say, I want to be around to for my daughter to graduate college. I want to be around for whatever that may be, because it individualizes it. It makes it more not like policing ourselves. Oh, I don't. Oh, I didn't do this. We look at our our Fitbits and we start. This is for you. This is not for anyone else. So I feel, for me, reinforcing that on the times when I'm not really feeling bad, I'm just reflecting on why that issue really bothered me. I'm like, why am I even going to the gym? That's an appropriate answer. Why am I going to the gym? A lot of people are like, well, you have to be healthy. Why do I have to be healthy? You know, it's really strange, but I think if you ask these questions, it makes it more personal to why you are really doing what you're doing. And
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great exercise that in the coaching world we call that the 5 whys.
yeah,
You know, where you just keep asking, why is it important to go to the gym? To be healthy. Why is it important for you to be healthy?
mhm.
Because I want to feel great in my body. Why do I want to feel great in my body? You know, and then you get to the depths of it.
Get to
Uh,
in math, it was the derivative. You have these huge problems, you bring it down to like the smallest, simpler, and usually the simpler reasons are the most meaningful. You know,
yeah.
um, I want to ask you this question as we kind of leading to the end. How would you like Mental Health Awareness Month to be remembered this year? A lot has happened. This is your chance to kind of share what you think you would like people to remember.
Yeah. Well, two things, and they're the ones we've spoken about today. I mean, the first, the one that I would like anybody to remember is that, like, mental health. So, the reason why this day was actually created was to, bring awareness to how important mental health is to everybody
Hmm.
and to our overall health and well being. And then the second reason is to actually celebrate people recovering from mental health illness. So those are the two reasons. And with that, I want to say that creating greater resilience and greater mental fitness, it is for everybody,
Mm.
because at any moment in life, a challenge might come, a spouse might die, a chronic illness, you might get an amazing opportunity at work that requires you to step up. You
Hmm.
need to be ready
Yeah.
to meet the challenges and to grab onto those opportunities when they arise. And the most amazing gift you can give yourself is to actually do this work
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And the second thing is, whatever it is that you are struggling with, again, I want to repeat this, whatever gifts or challenges or experience you have, it's unique to you. And we need to embrace these pieces of ourselves, because it's when there's this war inside of us.
Hmm.
I'm not good enough, or why did this happen to me? This is unfair. People are unfair. This is when the struggle occurs, when we're trying to dismiss parts of us, right? So
Mm.
pausing and finding empathy for yourself, and doing this work so you can integrate and really own who you are. I think you
Yeah.
mentioned that
Yeah.
earlier. Own and step up into who you are, because it's beautiful. It's you know we're
Hmm.
all individually beautifully created.
And I also want to say on top of that that you meant, like, going back to our own self care in the sense that the burnout, that reality that we have the susceptibility to get into. I would say this one quote. It's from Cyprus, actually. Proverbs says, "When your garden's dry, don't pour water in other gardens." It's kind of interesting that's said that way. I would say, on top of that, is a lot of people come into my office saving the world, not themselves. So I want to encourage those who are listening, that you're just as valued. When you talk about effective communication, one person said, "Well, I'm not." I'm not extroverted. It doesn't matter as long as you're expressing your needs effectively, both people's needs that you're communicating with. Then you're assertive in your communication. You're addressing the needs of yourself. But what happens is a lot of times we're passive or we're aggressive, or we have those outliers. So take the time. And I know we mentioned. I want to hear from you about the theme. I know we kind of mentioned it a lot, but for me, I wanted to mention real quick about the theme. Remembering our names. I just remember the first things when parents do is they spend a lot of time figuring out the name. And I think for me, I mentioned a little bit in the beginning, it shows how much they value that individual. I think a lot of times we know how this may help someone, but why this may help someone, all this stuff. But you know, it, we shouldn't forget the names of those individuals, and the people who are struggling shouldn't forget their own names. And I feel what I would like to see when I think about mental health is that we are accepting of this. It's not about a community that has it all figured out. I find it more comforting that we have those that grace to understand that context. That my parents won't understand mental health the way I do, and that's okay. They're in a different generation. If I pull back and understand that my priorities may not fit on other person's priorities, but at the same time we can speak respectively. And at the same time, if my garden is dry, I need to start putting water in my own garden. I want to ask you just briefly, and then we'll get to final thoughts on what's been going on with you. The theme, remembering our names. What comes up? What comes up when you hear that phrase?
Yeah, I mean, after we've sort of been bouncing emails a little bit, and I really and what you mentioned about it's the first thing that even before we're born, these people around us have been, like imagining this little creature, this being that's gonna come into the world, and they've created this beautiful name. It's come out of love,
Mm.
and one thing to share with you all is that when we were born in our purest essence. We were born enough. We were born worthy.
Mm.
We were born worthy of love and kindness and understanding and help and support, right? And you were also born whole.
Mm-hmm.
And as we grow up and things happen to us, we create these barriers or defense mechanisms, and this is then what comes out as negative patterns and things like that, and we sabotage ourselves. What we really want to come back to is this idea that you are whole. There's a true essence in there that is just you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is what inspires me, with this theme, is that our names also symbolizes our wholeness, our pureness, and the worthiness that we were born with.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah, and I feel some of the hardest conversations are the ones we have with ourselves, the ones in
Yeah.
front of our own mirror. And I think it's a lot of strength when we actually are accepting and knowing, hey, I'm maybe not where I want to be yet,
Mm.
and that's okay. Who's timing this? You're the one living with you. I want to ask, as we wrap up, any final thoughts you want to share with those listening, and then share a little bit about what's been going on with you, what you've been, because it's been almost a little bit over a year since you
Yeah,
last been on the
7 years.
podcast. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've shared everything that is in my heart, but I would definitely love to, if this tweaked your curiosity, if you are like, yeah, I definitely need to develop mental fitness, or that sounds interesting, I have no idea what it is, reach out to me. You can reach out to me on my website, which is at fridasoerensen.com. I know that Robert will share this. And at Wellness with Frida as well. This is both on Facebook and Instagram. You can DM me there. Let's have a chat about your mental fitness and or what you're curious about. This is again, we want you to get curious about you, about life, why things are happening the way they are. Um, yeah, I think that's all from me, Robert.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and having this dialogue. A lot of times it's tricky, but the fact of the matter is to end is that because it's hard, it can be hard. But if we remember the individual, we know doesn't matter that it's hard. Because it's hard, that's why it needs to be done. Does it make sense? And I'm not going to say, oh, someone like my nephew, someone close to me that matters. Doesn't matter if I could be a help to that individual. Doesn't matter that it's hard or easy. Some of the best things we do are hard, but if we remember the individual, I guess it gives us more focus. So at least I want to end with that as we wrap up and pay tribute to mental health. I just want to say thank you again, Frida, for joining us, sharing your thoughts on the topic today. Remember to stay all updated with Revive Ministries through the various platforms, reviveministriesfl.com. This is goodbye from Revive Ministries Podcast, leaving with the last quote from Britton Brown. He says, vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness.